Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Games of Canada here on Game Show Garbage. I'm Marc Power, bringing you a look back at the good, the bad, and the ugly from north of the border. Before we get into this episode, first off, let me say I'm delighted to present the first video edition of the Games of Canada. I just figured after doing a few of these things the old-fashioned way, it was time to go modern. So I hope you like it. Whether you do, whether you don't, please be sure to give your feedback. Also, I want to take this opportunity to apologize for the delay. Then it's taking so long to do these things. What many of you may not know is I actually work two jobs, both a full-time job and a part-time job. So I'm putting in roughly 60 to 70 hours a week. It's exhausting. I don't get a whole lot of free time, so I really appreciate your patience. I'm going to do my best to make these things go faster. And I'm actually going on vacation very soon. I'll probably be gone and back by the time this gets posted. I'll be going to my home province of Newfoundland, and I'll be there for about 3 weeks. So I'm looking to take advantage of all that free time and have a few of these things ready to go. I'm actually even considering maybe taking my next one in the Halifax airport, since I got a long layover there on the way. So with all that out of the way, let's head right into this episode and talk about the next show we're going to put into the Games of Canada, and that's The Joke's on Us.
Say, Jack, have you got a joke for us?
Well, this old man was crossing the street and a truck hit him and knocked him down. The truck driver screeched to a halt, looked out and yelled, "Look out!" The old man yelled, "What's the matter? You coming back?"
That's what this show is all about. Jokes! And here are today's guest showtellers, Jack Carter, Nipsey Russell, Maurice LaMarche, and Marty Allen. They're all here to play The Joke's on Us. And here's the star of our show, Monty Hall.
I heard that. I'll give you another chance to do it a little later on.
The Joke's on Us was a short-lived comedy game show. It was taped in Toronto and aired on the global television networks across Canada. The host is TV's big dealer himself, the late great Monty Hall. To the best of my knowledge, this is his first celebrity-based game show, and the only other one he did during his entire career was when Beat the Clock converted to the ill-fated all-celebrity format. Monty was and is a legend, but I kind of feel like he's phoning it in a little here, and is a bit out of his element doing a celebrity-based show. The announcer is Sandy Hoyt, a local radio DJ, who also teamed with Monty on the 1986 revival of Split Second. And he's a good announcer. He just doesn't have all that much to do on this show. Early episodes also featured a token model, Sylvie Garant, whose uselessness on this show can only be rivaled by Debbie Massey on Trump Card. Sylvie's job was simply this: walk on stage, hand Monty an envelope, take old envelope off stage, repeat as necessary. Luckily, producers realized they didn't need her, and she was eventually dropped. Before we get into gameplay, I should point out in the original airings, producers insisted on adding a disclaimer at the beginning of the show. And it is god-awful.
The following program contains numerous moments of hilarious laughter and side-splitting comedy, featuring some of your favorite comedians. Viewer discretion is advised. If extended periods of laughter cause you physical pain or soreness, the producers suggest you share the viewing experience of this program with a friend. The producers cannot be held responsible for overexertion due to lengthy fits of laughter. Thank you. Oh, do not operate heavy equipment while watching The Joke's on Us.
Really? Is that necessary? Nothing is that funny. Thank goodness Game TV and Prime Network didn't show this when they reran the show. I mean, I get it, it's just a lame joke, and to be honest, it kind of sets the tone. But it's not necessary. Move on. Two contestants play with a panel of 4 comedians. The show is basically a comedy version of the Liars Club. In each round, an old joke that has been done differently many times over the years is read by one of the comedians. He or she reads it all the way down to the punchline, with each of the other 3 comedians providing a different punchline. Contestant's job is to identify the correct original line to the joke, not necessarily the funniest, the original. Correct answer is worth points. A wrong answer awards the points to their opponent. In the first rounds, each contestant gets their own joke worth 5 points. The second round, they're worth 10 points. Round 3, Monty himself reads a joke, and 3 of the 4 comedians offer different punchlines. The other comedian does the reveal. Each contestant secretly chooses which comedian they think has the correct punchline. And if they're right, it's worth 50 points. It's a flawed scoring system. In a format like this, a miss shouldn't reward your opponent because it rewards them for doing nothing. Plus, the most you can score in the first 2 rounds is 30 points. With the last round worth 50, you can easily have a perfect game in those first 2 rounds and still lose because your opponent got lucky. As if the scoring system wasn't bad enough, the tiebreaker, when those rare times it happened, was even worse. Monty would ask a question with a numerical answer. The first player takes a guess. The other says higher or lower. Wait a minute. Where have I seen this before?
Sentence. All right. So if it is lower, Royce, you go to the board first. If not, Sue Ann does, and I'll find out as you do. The actual number of ex-convicts who said the judge gave them a fair sentence is 59. Not lower, it's higher.
2, 1. Yeah, that's right. They ripped off their tiebreaker from the question format of Card Sharks, which ironically was revived around that same time. Anyway, the winner pockets $250 and goes on to the bonus game. Later on, they changed from a point system to a money format. Jokes in the first round worth $25, second round $50, and the third round was worth $100. Although they dropped rewarding an opponent for a miss, they still failed to fix the mistake of making the third round worth more than the first 2 rounds combined, and create a new problem by reducing the main game payoff from an already low $250 to a max of $175, which was rare to see anyone get the max. On the bright spot, though, losing contestant does get to keep whatever money they picked up along the way, so you still had a good chance to win something, albeit not a whole lot. The format, like I said, is pretty much nothing more than a Liars Club clone, filled with a bunch of bad jokes that just aren't funny anymore. And one problem is that the show is so dependent on having the right panel. Many times they do get it right, with established comedians like Soupy Sales, Jack Harder, Artie Johnson, and impressionists Maurice LaMarche and Fred Travalena being regulars. But if you want proof of how a bad panel can kill this show, check out The Week with Artie Johnson, Joanne Worley, Johnny Yoon, and Alan Thicke. Now, Artie Johnson and Joanne Worley were great here and seemed to be enjoying themselves, but just couldn't carry Johnny Yoon and Alan Thicke. Now, Johnny Yoon is a very funny man who's made over 30 appearances on The Tonight Show and even had his own Korean-speaking talk show in the 90s. But he's out of his element doing this kind of humor. Johnny's kind of more slow-paced, observational, very dry stuff, kind of like Bob Newhart. And his style just didn't fit in with the jokes he was given on the show. And he looks like he's disinterested and looks very uncomfortable. Before I completely bury him, I want to say I recently discovered during my research that Johnny suffered a cerebral hemorrhage in December and is now suffering with advanced dementia and is allegedly penniless. I wouldn't wish anything like that in my worst enemy, so I think I can speak for everyone when I say our best wishes to Johnny and his family and loved ones. The late great Alan Thicke, not that I like to speak ill of the dead, but everything after Growing Pains with Alan Thicke sucked. He's way too dry for this show, can't deliver a punchline to save his life, and wastes time when he bobbles a joke. Anyway, moving on to the bonus round. The bonus game was called Add a Word and was based on a party game. An incomplete sentence is shown. The first comedian is shown a letter and completes the sentence with a word starting with that letter. The second comedian is then given another letter, repeats the first word, and adds a word of their own. The third repeats those 2 words and adds another, and etc., going around the panel twice for a total of 8 words. Then the contestant must repeat the whole thing. The contestant is allowed to help the comedians, but the comedians cannot help the contestant except by pantomiming. The whole thing has to be done in 60 seconds. For each word the contestant repeats, they win $25. Repeating them all wins the grand prize of $500. Where to start? First off, that's a lot of work for a measly $500. Even though I'm a firm believer that a show doesn't need to have big money to be good, this just comes across as really cheap. I would think they should be offering at least $500 as a small prize, or better yet, $1,000. Also, the consolation prize system doesn't work here, because there are many cases where the comedians waste way too much time during their play and leave the contestant with pretty much no time, blowing the bonus game and leaving them winning nothing, even though it wasn't their fault. One moment that stood out for me, however, was when a contestant bottomed out in the bonus round and only managed to win a measly $25 in the front game. Comedian Jan Murray just couldn't resist calling it the producers on their cheapness.
Threw them off. I'd like to give them a couple of hundred, but not with what they pay here. I want to tell you something. This in no way will break the producers here. The winner won $25.
Right.
That's an exciting night for the producer and his wife.
Have we lost $1,000 this week here? I don't think we lost $1,000.
Amen, Jan. Amen. The game itself is an oddity because this party game has nothing to do with the rest of the show. It just feels tacked on. And another flaw is that the rules are very loosely enforced. I said comedians are only allowed to help by pantomiming, but there are many cases where they do all but blurt out the word and Monty allows it. Monty also once accepted the contestant's answer of mother from mother-in-law as acceptable, but later in that week, when another contestant did the same thing, Monty did not allow it, admitting he had done it before but was told not to do it again. Yeah, that seems fair, doesn't it? Another episode, comedian Jack Carter offered a word that started with the wrong letter before quickly realizing his mistake and correcting himself. The contestant repeated the original word at the buzzer. Monty ruled the game is about memory, not spelling, and awarded the contestant $500. The inconsistency in the rules just makes the game a complete joke, and not in a good way. How ironic that the name of the show is The Joke's on Us. The show made little impact, never found much of an audience, and was gone by the end of the year. Monty returned to Canada 3 years later to host a split-second revival that lasted for a year and would be his last game show in Canada until his death just last year. Sylvie Garant went into acting, appeared on the TV series of the Friday the 13th movies, and hasn't done a whole lot since. Sandy Hoyt went back into his radio work and would team with Monty again for the same split-second revival before going back to radio again until his death in 2002 from cancer. Everyone say it with me. Fuck cancer! Well, that just about does it for this edition of Games of Canada. Next time we'll look back at a short-lived quizzer from the producers of the Mad Dash, Time Chase. Until then, on behalf of us at Game Show Garbage, I'm Marc Power. So long.